welcome to Take Me Out, the ultimate podcast about ballparks and the baseball experience. It's March 19th, 2025. I'm Alexandra Ellis, and I'm joining my friend Timothy Malcolm.
What's up, baseball fans? Welcome to Take Me Out, and welcome to the 2025 Major League Baseball season.
It's here. We're in it. It has officially started. It started in a complete on the opposite side of the world, but the Dodgers are 1-0. I don't have a vesting interest in that, but yay, good for them, I guess.
They're 1-0 as of our recording of this. They could be 2-0 by the time you hear this. They could be 1-1. Who knows?
Yeah,
we are in the middle of the Tokyo series, the Japan series between the Dodgers and Cubs, and that's really exciting and fun. I have not, unfortunately, watched any of the series, and I do have a very strong reason. I've been with my family traveling. We were on a vacation this past week in the East Coast, seeing family and friends in New York and Philadelphia. And yesterday morning, we're recording this on, what is it? What day is it? Tuesday night? I don't know.
Tuesday, the day after St. Patrick's Day. We're doing great so far.
They're about the same. They're really the same days, really.
It's alcohol.
Well, maybe not for you. For me,
no,
for
not
sure.
For me.
But the Tuesday morning, I was with my family, waking up and getting ready to go to the airport, and so there was no way I could turn on a game. And I was at my mom's house, and it's a whole different thing.
There's a lot of It's like I just get an hour alone. Then that's probably not going to happen there.
But now we're doing a late night recording of Take Me Out. To fit our schedules here. But so
Take Me Out late night.
Yeah,
Take Me Out after dark.
It's going to be a weird and wacky time, I'm sure. But we have a very fun episode of Take Me Out on tap. Fun, I guess, is a weird word because it's actually a very topical, serious episode. Serious. It's not serious, but it is serious. There are some serious things we're talking about here. This episode 7, we are going to talk all about the Rays, really the entire episode. I've decided that because there's so much going on with the Tampa Bay Rays, we should really get into it deeper. There's news with their future ballpark situation. There is, of course, Steinbrenner Field, which they are playing in this year during the regular season. We want to talk about that. We were going into this episode talking about Steinbrenner Field. So we'll do the rough guide to Steinbrenner Field so you can have a better idea of what that will be like this year. But there's so much more going on with the Rays. Before we get into the Rays, Alex, is there anything else baseball-wise that you wanted to bring up before we go? I'm just kind of out of nowhere, just freestyling and giving you an opportunity to sort of, just off the cuff. But is there anything that you wanted to mention?
Not really. I'm really happy that baseball is back. I know we keep talking about that each week, but now it is back. And it's like, it's some broken part of me inside has been glued back together. And I'm just so happy that we're talking about baseball. And as of this recording, I saw on TV, Lance McCullers pitched his first, it was spring training, but he pitched his first game since 2.5 years for the Astros.
That's great.
It was a 13 pitch scoreless first inning for him.
Great.
It's so happy to see him back because he's pretty famous for being known for being said, "Bury me in the H" when the Astros extended his contract, and we're so happy to have him now. He's finally back, and he loves the city so much, and it's fantastic to have him back in the action.
Well, that's great news, Lance McCullers being back, and I will ell you just really quick, and maybe we'll get to this next week for real, because I think next week we'll do a big, regular season opening day fiesta thing, and I'm not sure exactly what yet, but I do want to talk about a big trip that I'm kind of planning for May, going to Sacramento, and this will be an interesting one to kind of talk about. But I think I have my first trip in stone now. We're going to do a Bay Area thing plus something else, which will be really fun. And then I have some other ideas popping for the 2025 season. So we'll get more into that stuff next week, hopefully, and we'll kind of figure out what that whole episode looks like. But the regular season in earnest is starting very soon with opening day on the 27th is opening day, that Thursday.
Yes.
Big time.
Yes. Yeah.
Big time.
That sounds, big time. Big time baseball. It needs to be a national holiday. And I say that every year. I mean, it's nobody wants to go to work on opening day. It's baseball season.
It is. Yeah. I mean, why would you? I want to sit at my computer and watch 7 games. Have my phone going on MLB TV and have my computer going on MLB TV. If I could get 2, I don't know if you can get 2 to work in the same house. I think you can actually.
I'm sure there's a way to do that.
There's a lot of things you can't do with MLB TV. But I think you can actually watch it twice, and it's maybe not. I don't know.
All your devices going off at the same time. Do you want to reduce your screen time? Nope. I know what I'm doing.
There's also multiple streaming like options for watching baseball now. Like there's a game on Apple TV and there's a game on Roku and there's a game on ESPN, of course. And, you know, it's like you find, 5 different channels showing baseball at the same time. That'll be fun. All right. I've talked enough. We got a lot to talk about with the race. So should we just like let the weird news music play?
Let's let the weird news play. Yes, do that. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Play the weird news music. We're doing great.
Okay, so for the news segment, we are going to talk about the Rays and their future, which is looking a little blurry right now if you've been following what's going on there in the Tampa St. Pete area. But first, a quick timeline of events, how we got here with the Rays. So, Tropicana Field opened in 1990 as the Florida Suncoast Dome. Real quick. The Thunderdome, it was also called, hosted a lot of college basketball games, and then the Tampa Bay Thunder played there. The Tampa Bay Lightning, not the Thunder. What am I saying? The Tampa Bay Thunder? Who am I? The Tampa Bay Lightning, the NHL team that
it's got to be their
there in the 90s.
Their development league. It's got to be the Lightning or the Thunder, whichever.
I don't. They played in the Thunderdome, and they were the Light. Anyways, the Thunderdome. Then it became Tropicana Field. And 1998 is when the Rays, of course, started playing in Major League Baseball. Since then, they've been at Tropicana Field, and there have been a lot of problems with Tropicana Field. Of course, it's been well addressed. A lot of ballpark lovers and visitors don't necessarily love Tropicana Field. It's not their favorite. A lot of lists will have Tropicana Field at the very bottom, whether it's number 30 or 29 or 20, somewhere in that range. The problems. First, aesthetically, it's obviously not the most good-looking park out there. It's a domed stadium. It is somewhat concrete steel, AstroTurf. It's not, it just doesn't look good, right? It's domed. Right. It's got the catwalks. Of course, we all remember in the early days of Rays baseball when they were the Devil Rays. People remember when they were the Devil Rays?
I do remember that.
And Wade Boggs was on the team and Fred McGriff.
Oh, man.
So, of course, what would happen is, those early, it still happens today, but a player would hit the ball at Tropicana Field high in the sky. Looks like, just a regular fly ball in a lot of parks, but it would clank off of the catwalk up on the roof, and it would come down somewhere else on the park. It's just weird stuff. Yeah. So, just already not great for baseball, and it wasn't great for accessibility. People could not necessarily get to the park because it's down in St. Pete, sort of near downtown there, and not really close to a train option or light rail option. Also, it's not great for the coverage of the region. St. Pete is very much near the water on the western end of the Tampa St. Pete region, and I think one stat was that about 20% of Tampa Bay St. Pete residents were within 30 minutes of the park. That means 80% of residents were not within 30 minutes of the park. So that was the big thing for years, is that a lot of people were upset that they couldn't get to Tropicana Field easily to go see Rays games. And there was always a lot of push and pull, especially from Tampa residents, that they couldn't see the Rays just easily. It just couldn't happen. So that was always a big problem. So there was always talk about Tropicana Field moving on as the park. We're gonna move from that and do something else. And so there was a proposal in 2008 for a downtown St. Petersburg park. That took a couple of years, and Stuart Sternberg, who has been the principal owner of the Rays for a very long time, he was going to add about a third into that park proposal of, some amount of millions of dollars, but it fell through by 2012. Then there was talk that the Rays might, move to Montreal. I don't know if you remember that. That was in 2014. The proposal was the Rays would spend half of their home games in Tampa, St. Pete. They would spend the other half in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and sort of be this hybrid half and half team. That was an interesting proposal for a little bit.
That would have been so weird. Oh my God.
Would have been weird. I would love to see baseball Montreal, but that might not be the way to do it. Nevertheless, it fell through. 2018, the Rays threatened again to maybe move again to Montreal. That was a half the year thing. I think the 14 thing was an actual move to Montreal for good, and 18 was the half the year thing, because I think at that point I was actually going to Tropicana Field. Nevertheless, there was a lot of talk about the Rays maybe going to Montreal at some point, and it all kind of fell through. Then last year, a deal was struck, a $1.3 billion, 30,000-seat ballpark in the gas plant district of St. Petersburg. and that would open in 2028. And it seemed like all systems were go for this ballpark. There was some movement here, some movement there. The latest was that they needed to kind of reassure that they could have the money in time for a deadline. And of course, that was all taking shape as Tropicana Field got hurt badly on October 9th of 2024. Hurricane Milton destroyed the stadium. The roof of Tropicana Field was completely destroyed. And so that has been obviously in a bad shape since then. And they've been starting to renovate that ballpark. Mm-hmm. But, of course, the Rays don't have a place to play right now because Tropicana Field is unplayable and they don't have a ballpark yet, but they will in 2028. Right? Well, Alex, what's the news?
Well, the news is on March 13th, the Rays announced they will not proceed with the proposed gas plant ballpark. So said Rays principal owner Stuart Sternberg, after careful deliberation, we have concluded we cannot move forward with the new ballpark and development project at this moment. A series of events beginning in October, Hurricane Milton, that no one could have anticipated led to this difficult decision. Said Major League Baseball remains committed to finding a permanent home for the club in the Tampa Bay region for their fans and the local community. Commissioner Manfred understands the disappointment of the St. Petersburg community from today's announcement, but he will continue to work with the elected officials, community leaders, and Rays officials to secure the club's future in the Tampa Bay region. Tropicana's deal is done after the 2027 season. The ballpark will be renovated so that the Rays can play there in 2026 and 27, but the future is beyond that is uncertain.
So Tropicana Field is not playable this year.
Yeah.
The Rays will be in Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, which is where the Yankees spring training is and where they play the Yankees Florida State League games. The Yankees Florida State League affiliate, the Tampa Tarpons. Beyond that, Tropicana Field looks to be in play again for 26 and 27, but then the lease is up and who knows what's going to happen at that point. And it's possible that the Rays leave the Tampa St. Pete area. This ballpark proposal was seemingly the way to keep the Rays in Tampa St. Pete, and now that is done. That deal is done. The big note out of this, the Rays are not closing the book on Tampa St. Pete, and apparently they and Major League Baseball will evaluate the Tampa area specifically to see if fans are invested and interested in going to see the Rays there. So what's going to happen this year is while the Rays are playing in Tampa, which they've never done before, they've always played in St. Pete, they're going to sort of analyze and see if fans are coming to the ballpark and filling out Steinbrenner Field to see the Rays. And if they are getting sellouts there constantly, then maybe there is an actual road to a ballpark in Tampa, and that could be something new for the Rays. But I guess what I am coming to conclude with this part of it first, Alex, is that Stuart Sternberg has had multiple opportunities to keep baseball in Tampa St. Pete in a new ballpark. And yes, not all of these proposals have been great proposals, and there's been problems with each, and there have been other sides of the proposal that, you know, people don't necessarily like what's happening to the gas plant and all that stuff. But Sternberg has had a lot of opportunities over the past decade plus. I feel like at this point, maybe they're not worthy of baseball at a major league level in Tampa St. Pete.
Such a tough situation. And I'm good. And I believe I touched on this in our first ever episode is I have such a soft spot in my heart for Tampa and their fans, especially what happened in 2017, not the cheating thing, but Hurricane Harvey hitting Houston and Tampa just opening up their arms like, hey, come play this next series here while you get everything else in Houston situated, while keep everyone safe. And they did it without pause after, the Rangers turned it down. But
after the Rangers turned it down.
Not going to get into that right now. But it meant so much to me, as a diehard, lifelong Astros fan. It just to see another team like, please come stay here. And it's also, the Tropicana Field reminded me a lot of the Astrodome. And I've been to plenty of games at the Astrodome, and I did 3 in I think 22. Yes, it was 22 in Tropicana Field, and it felt like the Astrodome. It was, but like a cleaner version of it, and I still loved it. I loved it, and again, like I kind of felt like I was back in Houston, back in the Astrodome, and it's got quirks to it. I just I just love Tampa fans, and I'm so sorry for them in this situation. It's just a
Yeah.
tough situation for them.
And I grew up, as you grew up with the Astrodome, I grew up with Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And so concrete, round ballparks that may not be the cleanest and most kempt ballparks are familiar to me, just
Yeah.
as they are to you. And Tropicana Field, people have always, and for good reason, have, poo-pooed it for its aesthetics, for its not very up to code baseball, the catwalks and
Yeah.
just the weirdness of the park.
It's not a pretty park. You won't find anyone who's going to say it's a pretty park. It's not pretty, but
But
it means a lot to people.
There's something cozy about it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to, is that the Vet, as horrible as that ballpark kind of was, it was home to me, and it was where I grew up, and I loved it for nostalgic reasons and for personal reasons. And Tropicana Field kind of felt like that a little bit. This cozy, weird ballpark that, to its credit and to the Rays' credit and to people who work for the Rays, their credit, they have made that ballpark a good experience for Rays fans, with the Rays touch tank, with different vendors and different sort of shops along the concourse there that have been interesting. With there was at one point, the Ted Williams Museum was part of that ballpark and was a really cool, I think it's the Ted Williams Hitters Museum or something like that, or the Hitters Hall of Fame, where you could go in and see a lot of jerseys of great all-time players, and just, it's a kooky place. It was a kooky place, but it felt, and it's still there, so it feels like a cozy, weird home, while it's still not a great ballpark. And yes, the Rays fans, the people in St. Petersburg, Tampa, who have been standing by that team for the decades now, they deserve a cool new ballpark, a retractable roof ballpark that looks and feels new and looks and feels like Florida and looks and feels like the Rays. But the Rays, on the ownership side, I don't know if they necessarily care enough or want to put the money down to make this happen.
That's what it is. It's like, I mean, I'm not going to speak for them, but they're the ones with the money. Money talks to them. It's not just the fans. It's not the love of the game. It might be the love of the game. I don't know. I don't have that much money. Really quick with the park, what is the player? I know they have that massive weird statue of the guy diving out in the concourse. Do you remember what player that is? Or is that just a nameless player?
Was that Longoria? I don't know. I don't know.
No, because I think it was before him. Was he installed, right?
I don't know. I don't have that answer.
I hope whatever happens, I hope that moves to whatever new ballpark they go to, because I think it's like one of the weirdest things. You turn the corner and there's just like a giant player, and you're like, oh, cool, okay.
What you're talking about, I should know the answer to this, and I don't have the answer to this right off the top of my head. Nevertheless,
we got people listening yelling the answer, and we can't hear you right now. Sorry.
Probably it's and look, and I'll just, before we move to the next point here, it's a region, Tampa St. Pete, that does baseball well, and there are a lot of great baseball fans in Tampa St. Pete. One of the problems is that they're fans of a lot of different teams because of spring training baseball. Spring training baseball has been in Tampa St. Pete since the early part of the 20th century, really the mid 20th century is when it exploded there. The Phillies have been there forever in Clearwater. They're one of the longest running teams in one location. They have been in Clearwater forever. They own that town, and Clearwater is a big town. It's a big city. The Yankees have a huge presence in Tampa, as we all know, with Steinbrenner Field. And Yankees fans, they talk with their money, with their trips, with their travel. They talk, and they've been there. They go to, when they retire, they go to Tampa St. Pete because they want to be around the Yankees. Same as Phillies fans. When Phillies fans retire from Philadelphia, where do we want to go? Well, they go to Tampa St. Pete. I have family who have gone to Tampa St. Pete to live because they're tired of Philadelphia. They wanted to go to Florida, so they went to Tampa St. Pete. Even the Pirates and the Orioles and the Tigers in Lakeland and the Blue Jays and Dunedin, like, these are teams. The Braves aren't. Excuse me, the Braves aren't far away. The Twins aren't even that far away. The Red Sox are in Fort Myers, not too far away. Like, these are teams that have been in that area for a long time, most of them, and they have baked in fan bases. And so when you're asking a new team to come in 1998 and create a fan base, like, it's a hard sell for a lot of people.
Order.
It's a hard sell. And especially when you do it in an existing stadium that was for college basketball and hockey. And you're trying to say, well, this is our stadium. This is our team. This is our world. Well, it doesn't feel like it necessarily. And so if this has not happened already with a new ballpark and it's retractable and it looks and feels like the race in Florida, I don't know if it's going to happen at all. And I don't think it's going to happen at all. Honestly, I just don't see a future where there's going to continue to be baseball in Tampa St. Pete on the major league regular season level.
It's so sad. It's heartbreaking because I think everybody deserves baseball in their life, and everyone deserves to have like
spring training. They'll get spring training baseball. They'll get the baseball.
That's like a month though. It's like, but
well, I hear you. Well, let's go to the next item because this could be some interesting stuff. So what's going on now with the latest as far as the state of Florida?
Yeah. So meanwhile, the group to bring a team to Orlando has an anchor investor. According to WFTV in Orlando, the Orlando Dreamers Group said that they now have a best-in-class investor partner to help bring Major League Baseball to the city. The team has a letter of intent to finance a ballpark for a Major League team, providing a minimum of $1 billion with a B dollars towards construction costs.
Okay, so if the Rays can't work in Tampa St. Pete by the end of 2027, can they work across the state in Orlando? This is an interesting proposal. So the Orlando Dreamers includes a couple people here. So it was actually founded by Pat Williams, who died very recently, and he helped to bring sports to Orlando, professional sports, by being a co-founder of the Orlando Magic in the NBA. And I mean, back when the Magic started, I think, 1989, they really did kind of typify the 90s. They had a really cool look with cool colors, a very, flashy logo that I had an Orlando Magic starter jacket when I was a kid, and I repped that all over. I seriously did, and it was awesome. They had Shaquille O'Neal, they had Penny Hardaway, great team that immediately personified the 90s. And so Pat Williams was one of the architects of that franchise. He died recently, but he co-founded this Orlando Dreamers group. And it also includes Major League Baseball ambassador Barry Larkin, Hall of Famer from the Cincinnati Reds. So Barry Larkin trying to bring baseball to Orlando, along with a CFO, Jim Schnorf. So they are the two big names here now, Larkin and Schnorf. And these guys, they're trying to build a 45,000-seat stadium, a domed stadium off of International Drive, which is a major mixed-use district southwest of Orlando. It's anchored by Interstate 4. So basically along the Interstate 4 corridor there, southwest of Orlando, is International Drive. There's tons of resorts in that area. It provides somewhat of a connection to Walt Disney World, which is a little bit north of International Drive, and a lot of the other things going. I mean, Orlando's a huge resort and theme park city. I mean, it's all about travel, convention centers. It is a miniature, family-friendly version of Vegas, essentially. So it would make sense that Orlando would try to get into more professional sports, just as Las Vegas is, just as Nashville's trying to get more into it now, and Nashville's kind of the weird bachelor party Vegas of the East. So there you go. So that's all great stuff. Their stadium, you could see like sort of an idea draft of the stadium on their website. It's called orlandodreamers.com. And I don't know if you want to cue this up for yourself, Alex, but the stadium rendering, the sort of draft rendering that they have on their website, it is this interesting domed glass kind of stadium that looks a little bit dated at this point. Looks like it's a little bit out of the 2000s. And it has sort of this green belt behind it in the, past the outfield. There's this
how cool does that look?
So yes, it looks cool and interesting, and it's all kind of glassed in. It's kind of like a big greenhouse, so it's obviously with the weather, and because of the weather, I mean, it always rains in Central Florida, especially in the evening, right before games start. So you will need to have some sort of plan B because it will wash out a lot of games. So you want to have either a domed or retractable. So there you go. Yeah. But when you zoom out and you look at it from above, Alex, does that ballpark area look like anything to you?
Yeah, something. I
mean,
where do babies come from?
Exactly. So I don't know. When I saw this on the web, and you can look at it on the website orlandodreamers.com. It's it almost is like, is this an SNL joke? I don't know, but look, I get this is a draft.
Maybe
this
change
is
it from white to navy. That'll be a little somewhat better. But right now,
could help.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was like, Do I bring this up?
I don't know.
Okay.
Nevertheless, just your feelings about Orlando as a potential baseball home for the Rays if they were to move.
So I'm trying to think in my head right now, which is, again, we're having an interesting night. How far is Orlando from Tampa?
I want to say it's about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive.
Okay.
And I'm going to queue up my Magic Google just to make sure. But it's not too far.
That's not a bad idea because I mean, you think it would be almost kind of like the Angels with and over in Anaheim, how close they are to Disneyland. Having kind of something similar on the East Coast, that might not be a bad idea. And it's not like you're a Tampa fan driving 5 or 6 hours. Or I mean, that is a commute to go to the game, but it's still within reach. It's still doable. And if they could build a train, that'd be really cool or something. Some good public transportation. Yeah, which I'm sure is years coming out, but still.
It's about 75 minutes or so from Tampa itself, but from St. Pete, it's more like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's about in that ballpark. You're right. St. Pete, of course, is not very good for a lot of fans of that area, but Orlando wouldn't be you don't want to drive 2 hours just to go see Rays baseball. Yeah. So, but there will be fans in the Tampa St. Pete DME who will be interested in going to games in Orlando on the eastern end of the DME especially, and diehard fans would want to go to Orlando to watch the games. Sure. I mean, in a small sense, it's kind of like Oakland to Vegas, but it's not quite Oakland to Vegas, right? It's very different than that. I mean, Las Vegas is a little bit farther. But what I think you get out of this Orlando proposal is, like I said, Orlando is a big conferences and family-friendly vacation, and it is like a family-friendly Vegas of the East, and it does get a lot of business traffic. I mean, there's a lot of business traffic going in. That airport is a heavily used airport.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity for, if you want to bring a professional baseball team to that city, I'm sure there will be interest from outside. You'll probably get a baked-in fan base of, you could probably secure somewhere around 10,000 people per game from that area that would just come regularly to the ballpark. So you could probably say we'll have 10,000 every night, no matter what. Then if you add in the business traffic and the people coming into the airport, people on vacation, things like that, hopefully you're adding another 8 to 10 to 12,000, something like that. So now you're about halfway at your ballpark, and maybe then you're trying to just like grab people from other parts of the Florida area to come in, and now you're adding another 5 to 8,000. So maybe you could see yourself filling 30,000 of those 40,000 seats, and that could work. I'd rather see a ballpark proposal for that area that's more like 30,000, because I think that's probably better suited for the Rays, who are still a young team that doesn't have a baked-in fan base that will necessarily travel all the time yet. So, but if there's any city in Florida that could work for baseball, that Orlando's the city, even probably more so than Miami.
Yeah, I would.
Is that a hot take? Yeah. I don't know.
No, I don't know. It's a warm take, but I wouldn't consider it a hot take because it makes sense. It really does. Yeah, I think I'd be interested to see how this picks up.
Yeah.
I hate it for the Tampa fans and the St. Pete people, but
we'll see. We'll see, obviously, as we get closer to the end of Tropicana Field, and if there is no new deal or anything like that. I mean, there could always be a new Tropicana Field deal, and maybe the Rays would want to renovate the stadium even more. That could potentially happen, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't see that happening. The ballpark is going to be 40 years old by the time, they're going to kind of be ready for a new deal, essentially. So I don't know if that's going to work. But they could stay in Tampa St. Pete. They could go to one of the cities that does want baseball and is trying to get baseball, actively right now, whether it's Portland, Oregon, and we talked about last week, or Nashville, which has been very, present as far
constantly in the conversation. Yeah,
constantly in the conversation, wanting baseball, or a city like Austin, Texas, which has been kind of in and out of that conversation, or Montreal. Is Montreal going to finally really, emerge as a hotbed again, or Charlotte, North Carolina, which has also been in conversation as well. So we'll see what happens with all that. But that's the story there. The only thing last thing I wanted to add is that there's another thing that's going on with this whole gaslight district, kind of gaslight district. We're not talking about San Diego here. We're talking. There's all these districts happening right now. So what's going on in this district in St. Pete, where this stadium is now not going to happen? there's a lot of advocacy groups in that area who are saying this actually could be a good thing because this whole proposal that was going to have the ballpark and other residential commercial, mostly commercial, and condos and things like that, would push out residents of that area who either have already been displaced or will be displaced. We're talking about underrepresented populations. And now advocacy groups are saying, hey, this might be an opportunity for us to finally take back that area and actually put more housing in that area and maybe lift up those populations and not displace them and actually give them equity in St. Petersburg. And that would be great.
That would be fantastic. I would love that.
As much as I love ballparks and shiny new things and awesome things, like they're also like I am a massive advocate for giving people opportunity and equity in urban settings because people need to work, people need good education. I want to see cities be lifted up. I love cities. Yes. And I want to see, like, I'm from a city in Philadelphia where there's been a lot of populations who have moved out of certain areas because they've been pushed out of there for one reason or another, whether it's highways being built or gentrification or whatever it is. I don't like to see that all the time. I'd like to see communities that have been there be pushed up and given an opportunity to thrive in their area. I want to see new communities being built where those communities can thrive. So hopefully that can happen in St. Petersburg. And, maybe this is a chance for some pushback to happen. And maybe ultimately, the races have to exist somewhere else.
I agree. It'd be really cool to see what happens. I'm kind of thinking keeping in Florida. It's been a while since I went to Miami, but Lone Depot is right in the middle of a neighborhood. But it's like, what I like about it is like, there's just not a bunch of expensive hotels that blew up around it. It's still a neighborhood. And you still, God, I can't remember the name of the restaurant we went to before we went to Lone Depot, but it was just like a small Cuban seafood place that was 5 or 6 blocks. And it's just, I kind of like that about Miami. It's like, even though it's a big glitzy city, it's like the ballpark is in the middle of a neighborhood that seems like it hasn't changed in a long time. And it's just like, the property values probably went skyrocketed for some of those people, but it still seems like it hasn't changed much.
And if a neighborhood can build up organically around a ballpark, I want that 1,000 times more than just a shiny new entertainment district that is built randomly to supplement the ballpark.
1,000%.
Something like Wrigleyville, although Wrigleyville has become more and more gentrified over the years, obviously, but Wrigleyville is sort of an organic way of how a ballpark can coexist in an urban population. So who knows? The gas plant may be dead for now, but we'll see what happens in the future with the Rays. But the present, we'll talk about that in just a moment because we will be giving you our rough guide to Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, Florida in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Take Me Out. Tim here and Alex is there.
Hello.
Hello. And as we get moving here closer and closer and closer to opening day 2025, we do have to talk about another stadium that'll be welcoming regular season Major League Baseball this year, and it is George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, Florida, the current and former home of the New York Yankees in spring training and the Tampa Tarpons of the Florida State League, but also this year, the regular season home of the Tampa Bay Rays, because as we mentioned in the early part of this episode, Tropicana Field is not in use this season because of hurricane damage. So the real quick facts about George M. Steinbrenner Field: it was built in 1996. It was originally called Legends Field. Go figure, Yankees. It was renovated in 2007 and renamed in 2008 during a time when Steinbrenner was very ill and he died not long after that. It seats 11,026 people. It is the largest spring training ballpark in Florida. And it is also being called GMS Field, and it looks like the Rays are using that nomenclature a lot, probably just because they don't want to have the name Steinbrenner associated with
Do you blame them? Do you blame them? Yeah.
Well, Steinbrenner did good things. He did a lot of things that weren't so good, too,
Sure.
He's got their good and bad, I guess. But GMS Field, I call it Steinbrenner Field. It seems like the easiest way to go.
Yeah.
I've been there before. I saw Yankee spring training there. You have not been there before, correct?
I have not. I've been to Tampa and St. Pete, but I have not been to Steinbrenner Field.
Okay, so Steinbrenner Field will be new to a lot of people who are going to see baseball this year. I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to go to Steinbrenner this year just because they want to check off and say, I went to Steinbrenner when it was hosting Major League Baseball and it was the home of the Rays for that one season. You can say
I might be on that list.
Hold your head high. You might be on that list. I don't know if I want to be on that list, but you will be on that list. So people will be going here for potentially the first time. And so we wanted to give you a rough guide to the ballpark, essentially what to do in and out of the park, where to go, where to eat, where to drink. Maybe not where to stay, because Tampa St. Pete has a lot going on, and you don't have to get necessarily into that. We actually did a Grapefruit League rough guide several weeks back on Take Me Out. So go listen to our Grapefruit League guide to hear more about where to eat, where to drink, where to stay, kind of generally in Tampa St. Pete. But we're going to really focus in here on Steinbrenner Field and the area around that. So, Alex, the question that I've been asking you with all these rough guides to start off with is you're coming into Tampa, you're going to go see a game at Steinbrenner, you're excited to see Rays baseball in an open-air ballpark in Tampa. What do you want to know first about Steinbrenner Field and environs?
Well, as we talked about before, I like to do drive-bys. I like to kind of see where my seat is or where my gate is at the airport. If I leave the airport in Tampa, before I go to my Airbnb or before I go to my hotel, I want to see how far is the ballpark from the airport? Like, what part of town is it in? Is it going to be in Tampa proper? Like, what's around it? Like, I have to give me the orientation of it in the city. I want to drive by it. Which way am I going from the airport?
It's not far from the airport. It's actually quite close to the airport. So Tampa International Airport is northwest of downtown Tampa, and the ballpark is also northwest of downtown Tampa. So 5 is sort of the main highway there, and that connects to St. Pete as well. That is where sort of the ballpark lands, sort of off 275 there. And then when you get off of 275, there's Route 92, which is Dale Mabry Highway, and that's well known. So basically, the ballpark is northwest of downtown and very close to the airport. You're essentially minutes from the airport. So it's not far. And I've done Tampa a couple times now, flown into Tampa International, and have driven out of Tampa International. And it's very easy to get to downtown Tampa from International Airport. So it is not bad at all. The ballpark is across the street from Raymond James Stadium, which is where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play NFL football. So it's kind of like across the street, and one down, I think, is Raymond James. I think it's across and one down, but they're right there. They're right.
That's kind of like in Seattle, how all
kind
those,
of like exactly, kind of like in Seattle, how T-Mobile Park is right there across from is it Everwest? I don't know what the heck the name of that ballpark, that stadium is.
Okay, it's news to me.
The Seahawks and Sounders Stadium. I don't know. I have no idea what it's called. I want to say Everwest. That sounds weird. Most of the parking lots there are north of Raymond James Stadium. It's several different lots there across Dale Mabry. So the ballpark is west of Dale Mabry. Then Dale Mabry is right in the middle there. Several lane highway, kind of hard. You don't want to cross. There's one way to cross it, and I'll get there in a second. So ballpark is west of Dale Mabry. Raymond James is east of Dale Mabry, and the parking lots are north of the Buccaneer Stadium. So the parking lots are right across. The way to get there is a pedestrian bridge. It's called the Tarpon Bridge. So the Tampa Tarpons played Steinbrenner Field. The Tarpon Bridge takes you from right field at Steinbrenner Field to the parking lots across Mabry. The parking lots are expensive. Parking passes through the Rays this season start at $32 for the lots.
Wow.
Yeah, wow is right. It's not great. Not great.
Yeah.
So there's premium parking, and ADA parking is closer to the ballpark. So the ADA parking is actually on the other side of Dale Mabry where the ballpark is, and that's near home plate. So if you need parking close to the ballpark for someone with disabilities, then you could just do that there. But the premium parking, which is the regular parking if you're going to park in the lot, is going to be $30 plus, apparently, and it's going to be right across from the stadium, and then you walk the Tarpon Bridge over to the ballpark. So there you go. There are public transportation, several bus routes via the Hillsborough Area Rapid Transit, HART, H-A-R-T, that stop at or near the stadium area. That is what you have in Tampa St. Pete, is a lot of buses. It's a lot of buses. The thing about Tampa St. Pete is you have these cities that are pretty large. Tampa's here, and then St. Pete is toward the southwest, and then Clearwater's there as well. And they're all connected but not connected. It's kind of a weird sort of jungle out there. Yeah. So to do that area, I've always had a rental car, and that's been the best way to go. Obviously, if you want to drive to the ballpark, you're going to want to park, but maybe not for $32. So you could, and I've seen this online, people have done this. You could park in a residential neighborhood that's sort of southeast or east of the ballpark. And a lot of people who live in these neighborhoods will sell their lawns and their property
lawns. Oh my God.
For parking. So this is, I've seen this happen across Tampa St. Pete area, actually, where people will say, yeah, you want to park on our lawn for whatever amount of money. It's like $20 or something like that. You can park on our lawn and then walk to the ballpark from there. There are people who do it. It's risky, obviously. I'm not necessarily saying you should do it.
God.
It's grass. It's not that bad. But I feel bad for the homeowner, but they're trying to make some money, so whatever.
Yeah.
It's risky, obviously, but if you wanted to save some money, it is an option. I think the best idea really is to rideshare, especially if you're doing it in groups. What I would say is, if you're staying in the Tampa St. Pete area and you want to go to games specifically at Steinbrenner Field, I would try to stay in Tampa. Just stay in Tampa. Or if you want to stay in St. Pete, fine, but you're going to have to pay a lot of money to get from St. Pete to Tampa. You're going to cross the bridge. It's a lot more money. But I would stay in Tampa, maybe near the airport, and you're pretty close to everything. Then rideshare it. Rideshare to an area close to the ballpark and walk the final 5 minutes or something like that, maybe to avoid the traffic or whatever. Just figure out a way to make it a little bit less expensive for you and make it less of a headache for you, because it is really bad. And what I've heard is that traffic coming out of that area is terrible after games. After any event, at Raymond James or at Steinbrenner, traffic is bad. So just keep that in mind. You can rent bikes. There's City Bike Tampa. That's not necessarily a city bike like New York City kind of a thing where it's like stalls everywhere. You just hop on the bike and go. No, this is an actual business that is in Tampa. It starts at $18 per hour. So it's not a great option either. I'm just giving you all the options. But what I would say is rideshare is a really good option if you're doing it, especially in groups. If you want to drive to the ballpark and you don't care about money, then park at the ballpark itself and spend a lot of money. Or you could park a little bit outside, find a parking spot, maybe park on a person's lawn. I don't know if you want to do that, and then walk over. But there are ways to make it happen. It's just a little bit tougher, and I'm sure there will be tips and tricks that come out as the season goes on. And maybe you can help with that, Alex, if you go to the ballpark this year. Find the way to get people to the ballpark. But it's going to be a little bit tricky, for sure. And then near the ballpark, if you're looking for places to eat and drink, lots of airport adjacent food and drink, because the airport is so close. You're going to get a lot of chain restaurants and stuff like that. But Cigar City Brewing, which has been in Tampa forever and is a really well-known, really the first great brewery in Florida.
Get a High Lie.
Get a High Lie IPA, very good beer there. They have several. So their Spruce Street Brewery, which I think is their main brewery, that is pretty close to the airport. It's just 2 miles south of the ballpark. So it's very close, 5-minute drive. I've been to that brewery. I've been to that tap room. It is a pretty big place, not as busy as I thought it was going to be. I went right before going to the airport. It was very easy to do that, and very good beer selection. Lots of beer there, a lot of good dark beers. I got to have a lot of dark beers that I would never have had from Cigar City because they only had them at the tap room. And I believe they had, I want to say, a food truck presence or some sort of a small kitchen presence. I could be wrong. I want to say pizzas, but don't quote me on that. Nevertheless, there's a lot of food around there. Like I said, a couple of the things that I would recommend outside of Cigar City, which I think is a must for anybody going to Tampa St. Pete who's into beer, go to Cigar City before or after your airport trip. Miller's Ale House, which again is a chain. It is one of those craft beer chains, craft beer bar and grill kind of a things. Started in Jupiter, Florida, has since expanded across the East Coast. It's good. They have good food. They have good drinks. That's fine, and that's pretty close by as well. So I would say Miller's Ale House is a good choice. The other one, just 2 miles south and a few blocks from Cigar City, 2 miles south, I should say, of the ballpark, Riveter's Tampa. This is sort of your basic large format bar and grill, has decent bar food, has good beer selection, has a lot of drink selections, and so before, after a Rays game. I would imagine there will be some Rays fans who go to Riveters. Their Facebook page seems to be chock full of pictures of Bucks fans before a Buccaneers game, taking in some drinks and stuff like that. So it looks like a pregame spot. So Riveters, Tampa is probably a good choice. Cigar City Brewing is a very good choice. And a place like a Miller's Ale House, I think, is a good choice if you're looking for maybe a little bit more food, a little bit more of a craft beer situation. So not great, but decent. Yeah. So there you go. What next? Maybe in the park, or what do you think?
Yeah, let's go. So we've had our pregame beers. We've had a little bit of food because people want to save some room in our stomachs for the actual food in the ballpark. So we get in this stadium. Tell me what the layout of the stadium is. What am I looking at here?
So, it's first off, it's a minor league spring training style stadium, right? So you have that sort of bowl of seats, the 100 level that goes from foul pole to foul pole, right? And this is the 100 level. So I was looking for tickets on the Rays website to see how much tickets were going for. And man, it's not the same as Sacramento. So Sacramento, it was dynamic. This is also dynamic pricing. Every ballpark has dynamic pricing, which we said before is depending on the day, depending on the team that they're playing, depending on where you're sitting, the price is going to be different for each seat, right? Same thing here, but way more expensive than I expected it to be at this ballpark this year. So the 100 level is primarily field side box. Those are closer rows of seats along the first and third base lines. So I think it goes from something like 102 to 120, I think something like that. And these tickets are, so the ones that are behind home plate and the dugouts in box, so the ones closest to home plate and the field, they seem to be going for like $150 and above.
Oh, you weren't lying. Okay.
Which is pretty expensive. I mean, a little bit comparable to maybe even a Yankee stadium. Like that's I mean, maybe not Yankee, but comparable to one of the more expensive stadiums. $150 for behind home plate and around the dugouts is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
$100 to $120 in the top rows of that area, so closer to home plate. $100 to $120 for a seat. Again, a little more expensive than I would have figured. If you're going closer to the outfield in that box area in the 100 level, it's going to be like $120 and above toward the field, and then $80 to $100 in the top rows. So that's, I mean, really, that's almost the entire 100 level is over $80 for a seat. And it really, like, I looked at several games and it didn't change. They were about the same price for all these games. You do get some $30 to $50 seats in the farthest section of the 100 level. So we're talking 102 to 103 on the first base side and 119 to 120 on the third base side. Now, these sections don't go all the way to the foul pole. They only go to about halfway up the outfield. So it's not a huge bowl in that sense, but they are compensating with the price of the ticket. So if you do want a good seat in the foul area, you might want to sit in that very last section, which is midway up outfield, and you could spend maybe around $50 for a ticket, which isn't that bad. But most of the 100 level, you're talking $80 and more. The 200 level, so most seats in the 200 level are around $80 to $100. There are some seats in the corners of the 200 level that are closer to $30 to $50. So the 200 level is essentially like the 100 level, but with it's a balcony. It's a second level, so it basically goes the same distance essentially around the foul area from outfield to outfield. So the corners of that area, 203 to 204, and 218 to 219, again, those will be between $30 and $50. So that's not a bad deal. If you want to sit in the 200 level closer to the home plate area, anywhere closer, you're going to get anywhere from $80 to $100, which to me is not a great deal. No. I've actually sat, I want to say, in the 200 level around the first base line, and the sight line was pretty good. It is, you get a lot of Yankeeism out of that ballpark. It is made to look like a junior Yankee stadium, essentially, with the
white arches.
The white arches, which I know they have a name, and I can't think of the actual name of them right now, but yeah, it's kind of that same distinct design. But the sight lines are good. It's open, obviously. The sun is going to be in your eyes, I believe, on the first baseline side. I could be wrong. But, if you want a good seat in this ballpark, your best bet is probably in the corner of that 200 level because you're not all the way at the foul pole, so you still get a really good sight line, and the tickets are going to be in that $30 to $50 range, which I think is really kind of appropriate for that area of a ballpark when you got that kind of a seating, that kind of sight line, that kind of level. The outfield. So in left field, from left field to right field, we're going to start in left field. You have several different seating options that I don't think are available this year for the Rays. You have left field lower and left field upper, and then you have left field row 1, and then you have a standing room space, and that's all in left field, and they don't seem to be available. They are all usually available for the Yankees spring training games.
That's interesting. So they're just not going to have those seats available at all. I mean, I'm assuming if there's like a massive marquee game, like they're just not going to be able to sell those seats at all, like a tarp kind of thing, or.
I'm wondering if they're going to sell them as group ticket areas or something like that. I was looking, again, multiple games. I was looking for tickets, and I couldn't find any for that area. They just were not available at all. They blacked them out. So it's possible that they're group areas. It's possible that they're just not going to use them for anything. It's possible they're going to be used for something else. I don't know. But these are all sort of like one row each, specialty seating areas in the outfield. And then in right field, you have the Seminole Hard Rock Cabanas. Again, don't seem to be able to get any cabana seating when I'm looking for tickets. So again, that could be a group area this year. And then you have a standing room space in right center field. Then there's right field ledge and right field terrace, and those are closer to the foul pole. Again, can't get tickets for them. So again, I don't know what's going to happen with those areas. They might become open as the season goes on. Hopefully we'll have more info on that, but I don't seem to see any opportunity to get seats in those areas. Now, there is one right field area that does have tickets available, and it's called Right Field Terrace. It's in the right field corner near the foul pole there, and the seats are between $50 and $70. Which
this one area, if you want to get to home run ball, that's it.
That's kind of your spot to be, right? And there are tickets available for it. There are seats available. 50 to 70 is relatively comparable to a lot of other ballparks for that kind of area. It's on the 100 level area, so it is lower. You might not get a full view of right field by sitting in that area because you're going to be overhead, but it's about right. 50 to 70 is about right. So that seems to be the only outfield area that I can find tickets for is the right field terrace and right field. So if I'm just like looking for the right seat at Steinbrenner Field this year, I'm saying the corner, maybe the third baseline corner in the 200 level where I can get a $30 to $50 seat. Or if I'm down to the 100 level and I'm sitting in that same general area at the very end of the 100 level, what is it, 119, 120, and I'm getting a seat for maybe around $60. That's not too bad, or $70. That's not too bad. So that would be my place to sit if I'm going to a Rays game this year. There are clubs and suites at the ballpark. They're at either end of the foul area seating closer to the outfield. So basically when the main bowls end, then you have clubs and suites going into the foul poles. And there are also suites that are, the clubs are there. The suites are closer to home plate on top of the ballpark. So above the 200 level or where the suites are. Again, don't seem to be able to get tickets for those areas or opportunities for getting tickets for those areas. It's possible that they're selling those as group outing areas, or maybe that's a different way to get tickets this year. I couldn't find info via the Rays yet, so hopefully they'll become available when I know it. I imagine there will be info on that kind of stuff, but nonetheless, the suites, the clubs, all those things, we will find out more when we get it. So it's still kind of bare bones. I don't quite know everything about the seating yet for the ballpark.
It's just kind of I'm just thinking as you're talking, it's going back to the Rays fans, and I'm not trying to victimize them, but it's, hurricane, you can't help it, but it sucks because I remember when I went, I think our seats were 15 rows behind the Astros dugout, and I think we only paid like $75 for them, and it's not expensive to go to a Tampa to a game at Tropicana Field. I'm not going to lie, and it's like I said, it's not the prettiest stadium, it's not the newest one, but like you're not going to spend that much money. And the fact that this happened and now it costs her $32 to park there, and you're going to be spending probably over $100 on tickets that you probably wouldn't have at Tropicana Field.
At a stadium where, by the way, in July and August, it's going to be very hot and very humid.
Oh, man.
not fun
Gross.
to be in. Like,
No.
it's not fun to sit there. So
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting to see what the attendance figures look like as you get into the summer at that ballpark. But yeah, nonetheless, that's where we are with the seating.
Well, all right. So let's say I get to my seat. I'm happy. I'm still hungry. Where am I going to get food? What am I going to eat?
Again, something that I'm still trying to figure out because there's not a lot of info yet on where to eat and where to drink at Steinbrenner Field for the Rays. The Yankees spring training and for all that. Basically, it's like any other spring training minor league park setup where you have several different stands that are along the concourse on the first and third base side, and you're going to have your basic ballpark offerings of hot dogs and cheeseburgers and hamburgers and fries and nachos, and then you have a couple other stands that are going to have your beverages. There are some carts around the ballpark that serve specialized items, like beer carts, and there's hot dog carts and things like that. From what I've heard about Steinbrenner Field in the past is that they don't have the best offerings of food on an everyday basis. It's not really the best ballpark for food and drink, so take that as you will. We'll see what happens this year when the Rays come in. I don't know if that's going to change much. They did have specialty nights where they would have things like pork belly bao buns, and they would have deli sandwiches.
God.
Yeah, so like good things. But again, that seems to be like specialty, once a week sort of things. And that's through, different sources online. So again, I don't know how accurate that's going to be for this year. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a great option, but I would imagine that they're going to bring in some of the vendors that they had at Tropicana Field into this ballpark. So. Hopefully there'll be some sharing there. Now, Tropicana Field, from what I remember about their food offerings, and I'm still kind of, it's hard for me to remember, not the best. But there was, I want to say, a little bit of a seafood presence there. I want to say there were pretty good hot dogs there. But again, this is a while back, so I have to go back and kind of look at my notes. But I don't want to necessarily say, well, Tropicana Field a couple years ago is what it's going to be this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I would say prepare for Steinbrenner Field to have sort of average ballpark offerings. And if you really want to have a hot dog and a beer at a ballpark, then fine, go ahead and do it. My advice to you before you go to Steinbrenner Field is go to one of the places that I mentioned beforehand, get some food and drink at that place, and then go to the ballpark and be surprised if something's good there. Basically, because we're still kind of figuring things out there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what am I allowed to bring into the ballpark? Are they going to do kind of like other ballparks do, where you can bring in like your own stuff if it's in a certain bag?
Yeah, so the Rays do have this updated for this year. They do have a policy for bags. Okay. And like a lot of parks, they're going this way. They're doing the clear bag policy. So you can bring in one clear bag, which can be plastic, vinyl, or soft PVC, with no obscured interior pockets. Okay, so basically like a clear, like just a plastic bag, vinyl bag that you can look right into, and there's nothing there that obscures it. One per person. It cannot exceed 12 by 6 by 12 inches. So basically it's your backpack rule, right?
Right.
Carry a bag smaller than a regular backpack. Diaper bags and medical bags are permitted to the ballpark this year. So if you're bringing a diaper bag and you have to have a kid with you, then yes, you can do that. Don't just bring a diaper bag if you don't have a kid with you.
It's for me. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Your clear bag should have a single compartment. You cannot have multiple compartments in your bag. And you can also bring in a plastic storage bag, like a reusable clear, like gallon size bag, your freezer bags that you have at your home. If you have a plastic storage bag with some sort of, I don't know, if you're bringing in, what would you bring in? Because we're going to get the food in a second. If you're going to bring in something in a clear plastic bag inside of a bag,
spring rolls.
That's clear.
That sounds good. Spring rolls.
So the thing with food and drink is, I don't believe food is allowed this year at Steinbrenner Field. Yeah, so this is, again, this is, from what I've gathered, not allowed food, but you are allowed a up to 20-ounce clear plastic bottle, which, again, is a thing that a lot of teams have gone to this year, is they're only allowing the clear plastic bottle no more than 20 ounces, and it has to be closed, sealed, cannot have been opened before. So that is allowed, one per person, but no food, as far as I know. Okay. You can have a small single pocket, like a clutch, wallet, or fanny pack, but no larger than 5 by 7 inches. It does not have to be clear or transparent. So that's the exception to the rule with the diaper bags and the medical bags. You can have like a fanny pack. If it's 5 by 7, it doesn't have to be clear. So there you go.
All right. That's what I do. Like when I go to games, I have a fanny pack, and that's all I bring with me. Sometimes
put your sunscreen in there, put your chapstick in there, whatever you got. Yeah.
Liquid IV because they're going to be hot in the sun.
There you go. No hard-sided coolers, no boxes, no cases. That's typical for most ballparks. No brooms over 36 inches long. So small brooms are fine.
All right, brooms. So if we're sweeping someone, you can do a small broom. Cool.
Yeah, small brooms are good. No bullhorns or noise-making instruments. However, because it's the Rays, we should note that cowbells, which are the thing that Rays fans like to bang, or cowbells, they will be allowed this year to Rays games at Steinbrenner Field. So if you want to bring your cowbell, be more than welcome during a Rays game. Also, you can bring in a laptop or a tablet or a radio as long as you have personal headphones and you're not interfering with somebody's enjoyment of the game.
That's just like a general rule. If you have something with you in public, if you're going to play a video, use your headphones.
But how about that?
Rule. God.
Yeah. Please bring it. Please don't
in general, not just even baseball games. Yeah.
I'm surprised. Like most ballparks will not let you bring in a laptop. Like it's too big for you to bring it. So like this is can't bring in outside food. Can only bring in a clear bag, maybe a fanny pack, but laptop, please go right ahead.
Yeah, it's for the 1 o'clock games. It's called the 9-inning lunch break. I mean, why not in the middle of the week?
Gotta get stuff done.
Some stuff I will be interested in seeing if they do this season. And we talked about the intricacies and quirks and the kind of cool things that Tropicana Field is. I want to know if the touch tank. Are they going to bring like an extra tank for the Rays out there? I want to know about that kind of stuff. I wonder if that'll happen.
And that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that yet. And hopefully, again, we'll get more info as we get even closer to opening day. It's coming fast.
I love it.
But that'd be great. To have the touch tank there, to have just some kind of more of a presence. As we talked about this earlier in the podcast, that the Rays will have 4 days to change signage from Yankees to Rays ahead of the season opener. So it's going to be a very quick move for them to kind of make everything Raysified, whatever that means. So, I don't know if they're going to be able to do a lot with this park this year, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll get more answers as we get to opening day. And if you go to opening day at Steinbrenner and you want to share your info, let us know, because we would love to share that info with everybody else.
I'm hoping another thing that I loved is, I'm not sure how many other teams do this, but at their authentic store, what you could do, and I did this for all 3 games that we went to, even the 4th game against Toronto, you can go to the authentic store and you can pay $25. And at the end of the game, you go back to the authentic store and they will give you a game used ball from that game. And like they have the QR code that you can scan and put all the identifying numbers in it a few days later. And you can find out what play that ball was used on. I actually have, if you're watching us on YouTube, I actually have some of my balls up here that I got from Tampa from those games. And I really, really liked that. I thought that was a really cool thing that they did there. And I kind of hope they would bring something like that to Steinbrenner Field.
It'll be interesting to see what happens there too, because there's a lot of different merch stands that they've employed at ballparks in the last several years. You have your authentic store, you have your like make a bat store or make a jersey store, you have your just mini, tchotchke stores here and there, your nostalgia, like your sort of Mitchell and Ness-esque kind of store with throwback unis and things like that, like just little stands for different things, your hat stand. How much of this will be brought into Steinbrenner? Again, yet to be seen, but we'll see. I imagine he will try to have some sort of like larger team store presence there for the Rays.
Even like a trailer or something, some sort of outdoor trailer.
I'm sure there'll be something, decent for Rays fans. You can't just put them out in the cold. But nevertheless, that's what we know so far. That's the rough guide for Steinbrenner Field with the Rays in 2025. It's a rough guide because we don't have all the answers yet, and hopefully we'll get more answers and get more details later on in the season. And once that happens, we will probably come back with even more details. But until then, we hope you enjoyed the rough guide. I guess that's it. We'll come back in just a moment. We'll finish things up here on Take Me Out.
Hey guys, if you want to find us, not just on your Spotify or your Apple, where you're listening to us right now, but you are going to rank us 5 stars, right? If you haven't done it yet. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/TakeMeOutPod. We're also on Instagram at TakeMeOutPod. And hello, YouTube. You can find us at youtube.com/TakeMeOutPod. Like, comment, subscribe, share. We are slowly starting to get a tiny following. I actually ran into a friend of mine this weekend who follows both of us, mutual friend in common, and he was like, y'all are doing some good stuff. And that made me feel really happy. And he's actually a former podcaster himself, so having that feedback from him was really cool. So, but yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share, 5-star ratings. Please, 5-star ratings. It helps us with The algorithm.
Yeah, please get your 5-star ratings in there. Just go to Apple or Spotify. No matter how you listen to us, we'd love to get those ratings in because it will help us out a lot. And I have been seeing some YouTube subscribers and getting some comments and things like that. Like we have a little bit of a base right now, so that's awesome to see. And I can't believe you want to look at our face. Love it. It's great. We're not bad.
My hair looks good tonight. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like it. It's not. I'm having a good hair day. I'm very proud of myself.
Congratulations.
How's yours, Tim? How's your hair?
My hair.
Sorry.
I banged. Yeah, right. I banged my head on my brother's bar recently when I was away, and so I have like a gash up here on the top of my head.
Oh my god!
I mean, not a gash. It's like it's a little cut.
You got a little shiner up there.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, everything's shiny up here. But anyways, it's all fine. I'm very comfortable with my lack of hair. I've been very comfortable with it for years. It's fine. But yes, we'll also have a Patreon coming up very soon. That'll get kicked off when the season starts. And that's that for now. So thanks for listening, and we love you. Back here on Take Me Out, final segment. Alex, just to finish off this whole Rays discussion, this all Rays episode before the season starts, what do we want to see happen? We've talked about what might happen. We talked about what could happen. And we talked about what is going to happen this year. But what do you personally want to see happen with the Rays? Where do we want to see them go? How do we want to see this happen? There are many cities in play. We've talked about some of those cities that could be out there. There are ones that maybe we don't know yet, and maybe they're wild cards, and maybe that's something that we want to talk now. But Alex, I'll start with you. What do you want to see happen with the Rays? Where do you want to see them go when this is all said and done?
I want them to stay in Tampa. I really do. I think Tampa and St. Pete are such a cool little city group right there. Again, like when I went, I mentioned this, I believe, in one of our first episodes. There's so much to do in St. Petersburg. That's where you're staying when you're going. You've got little Cooperstown, which is like as I said before, it's the World Series record. It is the Guinness World Record. It's the most signed baseballs in one collection. It's so cool, and then you've got the Salvador Dali Museum. It's just a really cool area. And I know we spoke about Orlando, but Orlando's they got Disney. They've got Disney. They're fine. They don't need another base. They don't need a baseball team. I think it needs to stay in Tampa, St. Pete. I think that those cities are built for a baseball team. Yes, they don't quite have the draw that it could, but I think if you revitalize Tropicana Field, or if they go back and say, yeah, we're going to do this, not Gaslight District, what is it called?
Gas plant.
Gas plant. There you go. If they say maybe this is a good idea, I would love to see that happen. I would love to see that team stay in Tampa because it means a lot to a lot of people. And again, to my schmaltzy emotional self, it means a lot to me too. I don't want to take anything away from their fans. I really don't.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's a fan base that deserves better. I mean, every fan base that gets baseball probably and then gets rid of it or whatever, it doesn't have it anymore, deserves better in some way, right? Like, I would just say move him to Oakland and have the Oakland Rays, and but right, like just give it to somebody who deserves to have baseball. And Tampa, St. Pete, I mean, people there who've been supporting them deserve to have baseball to follow.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's a great area. I actually like Tampa St. Pete quite a bit. Florida's Florida, but Tampa St. Pete is fun. And I have family there and all that jazz. But I also could see they have a lot of baseball as it is, and they've been thriving as that kind of mecca for a long time. And maybe Major League Baseball hasn't quite worked out the way that it should have, or maybe they expected it to. So maybe it's just a better thing if it goes somewhere else. I don't know. I would like to see – what would I like to see? So I guess if I'm being true to myself and honest with myself, I would probably just like to see baseball in Montreal again.
Yeah,
and
bring back the Expos.
And I know that there were times when that city didn't necessarily support that team as well, but also ownership during those lean years in the late 90s into the 2000s, after 94, the ownership, they just sucked the life out of that club, and fans were tired of it, and the stadium they needed something new there. I mean, Olympic Stadium, as cool as it was for its time, they clearly needed something new because everything else was changing so quickly in baseball. to see the Expos in a really cool retractable roof, like Nido Stadium that seats like 30,000 in the heart of Montreal would be neat because that's a great city and I love it. And I would love every excuse to go to Montreal as much as I possibly can because it's one of my favorite cities in the world.
I hear that, yeah.
If I'm being true to myself. So that's my answer. But my hot take is like, I don't think Nashville necessarily needs baseball because Nashville is already like a well-traveled town. I don't necessarily think Orlando needs baseball because people go to Orlando already. I don't
think Austin needs baseball.
I don't think Austin needs baseball because people go to Austin and they have a good soccer team, and I don't know if they can handle baseball, quite honestly.
They got UT, so they're fine.
UT is the sport there, right? It's everything.
Yeah.
Charlotte is an interesting one, maybe, but like also Charlotte has had several different sports franchises, then I don't necessarily think they do particularly well with those franchises attendance wise. I could go back and look, but does Charlotte need? I don't know. I honestly, if they can't stay in Tampa St. Pete, then maybe Montreal can get them. And if it's not Montreal, to me, like just make the Rays like a barnstorming team or something. Just have them based out of, I don't know, Savannah, Georgia or something, and have them wear yellow outfits and do goofy dances and put on fun games against major league teams every night. And like there's one team in baseball that is just weird and fun and brings the fun back into baseball. And we'll call them the Savannah Pineapples.
Pineapples, yeah.
They will be a fruit-focused...
Or the Savannah Squash.
The Squash. That's probably the best possible name you can give a team that
Savannah
I'm describing.
Squash. I kind of dig
Savannah, Georgia. Just do that. Why not?
Yeah. Perfect. Let's go. Yes. I'm on board.
Basically, like, baseball should just become the Savannah Bananas is what I'm saying. So there you go.
Oh, I love it. I think everybody would benefit from that. Everybody would.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Well, with that, we are now getting into the actual fun of everything. Baseball is starting for real. I mean, it's already started for real, and we'll see what happens with this Tokyo thing as we're recording this. But opening day is very close to right now, and we can't wait to be there before it starts. We're going to have our next episode come out the day before opening day, so we'll figure out what that's going to be, and it'll be fun. It'll be a surprise, and then we'll tell you what else is going to be coming up and all that jazz. But until then, I will stop talking. This has been Take Me Out. Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed it. Please listen, subscribe, and rate and review, and tell your friends and family members that you need us in your life. There you go. Great.
I love that.
Okay.
Let's go.
For Take Me Out, I'm Tim.
And I'm Alex. And guys, it's baseball season.
See you next time.